Hello, my name is Jess, and today we're going to make the final project in our A Field Guide to Making Bags video series, which is the handbag. Congrats if you've made it this far, and if you haven't checked out the other videos in this series yet, I highly recommend going back and checking those out too. Each video in this 5-part skill building series covers a project from my book along with essential bag making techniques for all levels of sewists. First of all, welcome to anyone who is new here, and welcome back if you've been following along with our channel. I am so glad that you're here, and if you haven't already, we would love for you to hit the subscribe button so that way you know when a new video releases. The final handbag project is what I like to call the graduation project in this skill building series. It has all of the classic features that you would hope for in a handmade bag. And by now, I'm hoping that you feel prepared and eager to tackle this more challenging style of bag and put your knowledge to the test. With this project, we will review the skills that we've learned for fabric preparation, learn how to add shape to the bag and pockets, create stylish handles, assemble pleated side pockets, make an interior slip pocket, install an interior zipper pocket, attach a contrasting base, assemble the bag with a zipper closure, and add optional hardware and embellishments. This handbag was designed to make a sophisticated statement for everyday use. The convenient side pockets give easy access to small essentials, and the roomy interior secured with a zipper closure provides space for larger items. The finished size is 10 inches wide, 9 inches high, and 4.5 inches deep. Before we get started, be sure to purchase my book, A Field Guide to Making Bags. You can find the book on our website or at your local fabric shop. Check out the description below for a direct link. All of the supplies you need are listed in the book. When selecting fabrics, we recommend woven fabrics for the main fabric and non-woven fabrics such as cork or faux leather for the contrasting accents. And if you've been following along with this video series, you probably know by now, the first step is picking out your fabrics, which is often the hardest part, right? There are so many pretty designs to choose from. So go ahead and gather the materials and the supplies that you would like to use, and then follow along with the cutting instructions in the book to cut out your pieces. Like always, I recommend using a cutting mat, rotary cutter, and ruler for smooth, accurate cuts. And once all of your pieces are cut out, we are ready to begin the tutorial. Feel free to pause the video anytime so you can sew along with me. I am so excited for you to dive into this final project, so let's begin. First, let's review the materials and supplies for this project. The main fabric will be used for the front and back panels, along with the side panels and the exterior side pockets. For my main fabric, I decided to use our faux waxed canvas, which is a printed water-resistant canvas that appears to look like a patinaed, distressed waxed canvas. However, there is no wax on this fabric, so it doesn't gunk up your sewing machine, and is a mid-weight material, so it is a great option for bag making. The contrast fabric should be a non-woven material such as faux leather or cork fabric. The contrast fabric will be used for the handles, side pocket trim, base, and an optional tassel. The lining fabric will be used for all of the interior pieces of the bag, along with the side pocket lining. I chose to use Turtle Tex for my lining fabric. And just like the other projects in this series, I am going to skip adding any fusible interfacing to my lining pieces because I am using Turtle Tex. This is a coated cotton that we've designed for bag linings. It has a water-resistant coating on the back side, and it's durable and has a sturdy drape, so there's no need for interfacing. However, if you choose to use a cotton, linen, or a mid-weight or a quilt cotton weight material, you will need to cut lightweight woven fusible interfacing to add some more support to your interior fabric. The foam interfacing will be used to stabilize the exterior fabrics. You will also need an 8-inch single slide nylon coil zipper for the interior pocket. You'll also need a 16-inch single slide nylon coil zipper for the top closure. For the hardware for this project, you'll need one zipper end for the top closure, as well as 4 bag feet if you'd like to include them on the base of your bag. The bag feet are optional, but they certainly elevate the look of the project and help keep your bag protected and clean by slightly lifting it off surfaces. There's also the option to install a metal handmade label and small rivets for embellishment and reinforcement. Start by attaching the lightweight woven interfacing. If you're adding interfacing to your pieces, you'll want to start by fusing the pieces of lightweight woven interfacing to the wrong side of the lining front, back, side panels, and the base. Make sure to align all edges of the interfacing with each piece of fabric and fuse to your fabric according to the manufacturer's instructions. Next, prepare the main panels. Position one piece of foam interfacing against the wrong side of each main panel front, back, and side panels. Make sure the outer edges are aligned, and you can use basting spray or sewing clips to hold the layers together. Then, using a longer stitch length, baste 1/8 inch from each of the outer edges of the front, back, and side panels. Now is the time to add any optional quilting if you'd like. The quilting will help further secure the main fabric to the foam as well as add really fun detail. Also, if you'd like to install a metal handmade label, you'll want the label centered up from the bottom edge of the front panel according to the pattern. Refer to the pattern for the measurement to mark the placement for your metal handmade label. We've added a link in the description for a video tutorial on how to install metal handmade labels. They're very easy to install and beginner friendly, plus they add a unique special touch to your project. Next, I'll explain how to taper the front and back panels along with the side panels to create some extra shape for our project. Start by measuring in from each side edge of both the front and back panels and mark along the top edge according to the pattern. After marking, draw a diagonal line connecting each mark with the adjacent bottom corner on each side. Next, you'll want to stay stitch or top stitch 1/8 inch inside the marked lines. The stay stitching will help secure the fabric in place. Then cut along the diagonal line to add shape to the front and back panels. You'll repeat the same process to add shape to the lining front and back panels. However, you do not need to sew before cutting since the lining is a single layer of material, potentially with the interfacing already fused to it. Whereas the main fabric and foam are 2 separate layers, so it was important to add the stitching before cutting, especially if you opted not to add any quilting. The next step is to add shape to each of the side panels. Similar to before, we are going to create the tapered side edges, but this time we'll measure in from each side edge along the bottom and mark the measurement according to the pattern. Then draw a diagonal line from each mark up to the adjacent top corners. Add your stay stitching and then cut along each of the marked lines to shape each side panel. After shaping each of the main fabric side panels, you repeat the same process to shape the lining side panels. But just like before, you do not need to sew the lining fabric before cutting. Next, attach the handles. We're going to start by folding the long edges of each handle to the center against the wrong side. What I like to recommend doing is taking a ruler and marking the center along the length of each piece. Then you'll want to fold each raw edge to the center with the wrong sides of the fabric together. You can use double-sided basting tape or sewing clips to hold the layers in place. However, I am going to fold my fabric as I sew. And over at the sewing machine, top stitch a 1/4 inch from each side of the center to prepare each of your handle pieces. I like to lengthen my top stitching, so the stitches are 3 to 3.5 millimeters long. Also, I have a Teflon foot attached to my machine to help easily sew over the faux leather. If you'd like to add shape to each of the ends of the handles, you can trace a large spool of thread or a small lid along each of the ends of the handle, or even cut pointed ends. Then cut along the marked lines to shape each end. I'm going to leave my handle ends straight. Next, take your ruler and a marking utensil and mark across each handle end, measuring from the raw short end in towards the center and marking a line across each end of the handle. Then, with wrong sides together, fold each handle in half lengthwise and use sewing clips to hold the layers in place. Then top stitch a 1/4 inch from the aligned folded edges, starting and stopping at the marks. Next, mark the placement of the handles on the right side of the main fabric front and back panels. You'll want to measure and mark horizontal lines down from the top edge according to the pattern, and also mark a vertical line measuring away from each side of the center. The vertical line can begin at the top edge and stop at the lower marked horizontal line. If you'd like, you can adhere double-sided basting tape to 3 inches of each end of one handle piece on the wrong side. Then, with the right sides facing up, position the inside of the handle ends along the markings on the main fabric front. Then top stitch each end of the handle in place 1/8 of an inch from the edges up to the top horizontal line, then stitch across. Then repeat the same process to attach the remaining handle to the main fabric back and remove any placement marks. If desired, you can install small rivets centered 1/2 of an inch up and 2.5 inches up in the center of each handle end for reinforcement and embellishment. Otherwise, you could add them inside each of the corners of the stitching or however you would like. For instructions on how to install rivets, you can refer to my book, A Field Guide to Making Bags, on page 51 for a basic hardware tutorial on rivets. Otherwise, we've added a link in the description to a video tutorial. Next, assemble the pleated side pockets. Place one lining side pocket wrong sides together with each main fabric side pocket. Make sure to align all of the edges and use sewing clips to hold the layers together. Then baste the top and bottom edges together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Next, with wrong sides together, fold each contrast side pocket trim piece in half lengthwise and slide the trim piece over the top edges of the side pocket pieces so the pocket edges are against the fold of the trim. Hold the pieces together with sewing clips. Next, top stitch the trim to each pocket an 1/8 inch from the raw edges of the trim. If desired, add a second row of top stitching an 1/8 inch from the top folded edge. Next, with right sides facing up, place the side pockets over the side panels, aligning the bottom and side edges. You'll notice that the pockets are wider than the side panels to make room for bulky items. Then baste the side edges in place with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Next, fold 2 pleats centered at the bottom edge of each pocket so the bottom edges are smooth and even. Then baste the bottom edges together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Next, create the interior slip pocket. For instructions on how to make and attach an interior slip pocket, refer to the Essential Pocket section in my book on page 89 for instructions on how to create a slip pocket. You'll want to center the top edge of the pocket down from the top edge of one lining panel, referring to the pattern for the measurement. Make sure that the slip pocket opening is towards the top as well. And remember that the top edge of the lining is narrower than the bottom edge. If you'd like a visual step-by-step tutorial on how to make and attach a slip pocket, we've added a link in the description. Next, create the interior zipper pockets. You may already be familiar with our method on installing zipper pockets into bag linings. Or perhaps you have your own favorite technique. For step-by-step instructions for how to attach an interior zipper pocket, refer to my book on page 90 for the section on essential pockets and step-by-step instructions for installing a zipper pocket. Refer to the book for the placement measurements. We've also added a link in the description of this video if you would like to watch a step-by-step video tutorial. You'll also want to make sure that the bottom edge of your zipper pocket is left unsewn because we are going to turn the bag right side out through this zipper pocket opening at the very end. It's also very important to unzip the zipper to prepare the bag for turning later on. Next, prepare the base. With right sides up, you'll want to position your contrast base over the foam base piece. Align all of the edges, then stitch 1/2 inch from all of the edges. Trim away any of the foam from the seam allowance to help reduce some of the bulk. Try to cut close to the stitches, but be careful not to cut through the stitching. Then, if you'd like, mark the placement for each of the purse feet according to the pattern in my book. Then you'll install a bag foot at each intersecting mark, following along with your hardware manufacturer's instructions. Otherwise, you can refer to the basic hardware tutorials on page 50 for step-by-step instructions on how to install bag feet, or watch the video tutorial that we've linked in the description. Now we're ready to assemble the exterior and the lining. I find it helpful to mark the start and stop point of the contrast fabric base before sewing. With right sides together, center the long edge of the contrast fabric base along the bottom edge of the main fabric front. You'll want to sew the two pieces together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, starting and stopping a 1/4 inch from the short sides. Make sure to backstitch this seam. And after sewing, take your scissors and cut a vertical line up to the last stitch at the beginning and end of the seam. Just be careful that you don't cut through or past your seam. Then you'll repeat the same process to attach the opposite long side of the base to the main fabric back. Next, with the right sides together, align the top and side edges of a main fabric side panel along one side of the main fabric front. Hold together with sewing clips, then sew the sides together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, making sure to stop a 1/4 inch from the bottom short edge. After sewing, it's helpful to press the seams open either with your iron or with a seam roller. Repeat the same process to attach the unsewn edge of the attached side panel to the main fabric back. Then repeat the same steps to attach the remaining main fabric side panel to the opposite side of the main fabric front and back. With right sides together, match the bottom unsewn edges of the side panels with the short edges of the base. Use sewing clips to hold the layers together. Then sew together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, starting and stopping a 1/4 inch from each side edge to create the box corners on the bag. Make sure to backstitch each seam. Next, repeat the same process to attach the lining base to the lining front and back, along with attaching the side panels. But this time, use a 1/2 inch seam allowance and make sure to start and stop a 1/2 inch from the short sides. The wider seam allowance for the lining will help the lining fit neatly inside your bag. It's okay to sew through the seam allowance on the zipper pocket side seam. When you align the side panels at the top edge, make sure that a little corner of the side panel peeks above the top, so that way your raw edges are aligned at the 1/2 inch wide seam allowance. After sewing, carefully trim the seam allowances of the lining to measure about a 1/4 inch wide. This will help reduce some of the bulk. Next, attach the zipper. Attach a metal zipper end to the closed end of the 16-inch zipper according to your hardware manufacturer's instructions. I love this type of hardware because it only takes a few seconds to install and you have a beautifully finished zipper tail. We've linked step-by-step instructions for this hardware in the description. On the opposite end of the zipper, turn each end of the zipper tape under at a right angle and stitch in place. I like to use sewing clips to help hold the bulky coil in place while I sew. There are other methods for creating the 90-degree zipper ends. We've added a video link in the description if you're interested in learning other techniques. I'm using a narrow foot to help stitch closely to the raw edge of the zipper tape. However, you could use a zipper foot as well. Next, open the zipper completely. Turn the exterior so it faces right side out. And mark the center on the top edge of the main fabric side panel. I like to do this by simply folding the side panels in half, matching the side seams, and marking along the folded edge. Next, with the right sides together, position one side of the zipper along the top raw edge of the exterior. The folded end of the zipper should be a 1/4 inch from the side panel center mark. Use lots of sewing clips to hold the zipper in place. Then position the opposite end of the zipper away from the top edge according to the pattern. You'll want to make sure that the zipper is tapered out of the seam allowance by 1/2 inch from the center mark of the side panel. Sew the aligned edge of the zipper in place with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Make sure that the handles are out of the way as you sew and backstitch over each end. Repeat the same process to attach the remaining side of the zipper to the opposite side of the exterior. Try your best to keep the zipper tape even. After sewing, test your zipper to make sure it opens and closes evenly. Now is the time to make any adjustments if the zipper is crooked when closed. Once you're happy with your zipper, open the zipper completely and turn the exterior wrong side out. Now we'll assemble the handbag. Turn the lining right side out. With the right sides together, insert the lining into the exterior, aligning the top raw edges and side seams. Make sure that the handles are down inside the bag and secure the top edge with either pins or sewing clips. When you're ready, sew around the top edge with a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Turn the bag right side out by pushing the exterior and lining through the bottom unsewn section of the zipper pocket. After turning, you can either hand sew or top stitch the opening in the zipper pocket closed. Then smooth the lining down into the exterior and gently push out the corners and edges to shape the bag. Press or roll the top edge of the bag with the zipper along the top edge. Then top stitch the top edge with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Just be careful to not sew through the handles or the zipper while top stitching. And the final step is to make and attach the optional tassel. You can follow along with the instructions in my book on page 107 within the Quilted Pouches project to learn how to make and attach the optional tassel. Instead of threading the connector through a zipper pull, you'll glue the tassel to itself to create a continuous connector piece. Then wrap the connector around a handle and thread the tassel through the folded end of the tassel connector and pull it tight to secure. We've added a video tutorial below for a step-by-step demo of how to create this tassel as well. Awesome job today! Woo! That's so great. You finished all of the projects in this series. And if you haven't checked out the other videos, perhaps you didn't sew along with me, I highly encourage you go back in the series and check those out. You did an incredible job. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this project and picked up lots of tips along the way to apply to your future bag making. We would absolutely love to see your finished project. Use the hashtag SallieTomato on social media to show off photos of the fabrics you used, and how you styled your handbag. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial series, and it has been so much fun to share all of these tips and techniques with you along the way. We cannot wait to see where your bag making journey leads. And if you haven't already, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel. We would love to continue to inspire you and help you create confidently. Thanks again for watching, and I hope you'll check out the rest of our pattern line for more creative projects. I'll see you next time.